What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of TECspertZ. We're back with the crew, but before we get started with this week's episode, TECspertZ is a collaboration between the East Carolinian and WZMB 91.3 FM Greenville, and we would like to thank the Big Vape Theory for sponsoring today's podcast. Once again, my name is Nick Green. I am the News and Sports Director with WZMB.
I'm Cannon Gates, the station manager at WZMB.
And I'm Trevon McGlone. I'm the sports editor for the East Carolinian.
And we are back with another episode here of TECspertZ here, where, so this episode, we're only going to be talking about the ECU-Charlotte game of what the heck just happened in Charlotte, North Carolina. And as we promised you last week, we brought in the paper bags. Unfortunately, didn't have any brown paper bags because everybody's been buying the brown paper bags here in Greenville because everybody feels the way we do right now, apparently. So this will have to work. However, it's just fine. However, we told you we were bringing it in. The counter's going to be up this episode. The emotions I expect to get pretty hot in this episode because me and Trayvon were talking before this podcast started. Emotions were already getting hot there, so I expect this podcast will be one of the more heated ones. However, you guys are in for a good one. So, gentlemen, 55-24. What are the thoughts?
Trayvon, you can go first.
Oh,
I can tell you look more heated than I do right now.
Like, it was, having to see this game in person was embarrassing. It was one of the worst losses. I've been here for 2.5 years, for anybody that's new to getting to know me. And this is arguably the worst loss I've ever experienced being an ECU Pirate. And I'm ashamed. We talked a big game and talking about the fact that we figured that Charlotte was going to be a team that we just got past. We figured that it would be someone that we could just roll over in the state of, going to the bye week and go against Army, going up there West Point. But can't even worry about, I don't even know if we're going to be able to do that because this was one of the easier games that we had left scheduled, and they rolled us. They had a career-high 6 rushing touchdowns on us against a run defense that we thought was good. Turns out they might be fraudulent. We also gave up the most points ever. I believe. I think either that or it tied the most ever that Poggi and the Charlotte 49ers had. And you can't do that and be a contender, let alone even a mid-tier team inside the AAC. So, yeah, I'll leave it with you guys because it was embarrassing.
Yeah. Fire Mike Houston. I'll just go ahead.
Fire Mike Houston.
I'll go ahead and get you one right now because holy cow. Can I first start off by saying, honestly, the person I feel worse for in this game is Jake Garcia.
Yeah,
yes,
because
absolutely.
he's played so much worse in other games this year than he did on Saturday, and they pulled him. Exactly. But if you look strictly at stats, the pick he threw, first of all, I can say, I don't like Brock Spalding. I still don't know why he's on the field, because that was the one he threw the pick on. Brock Spalding's like 5'10". I don't know. If you're going to throw a ball like that, I expect Anthony Smith to go up and grab it or Sowell or a tight end. But besides, I honestly feel bad for Jake Garcia. He has obviously not been great this season, but for how bad he's played at times, he has played good. I don't know. I just personally feel bad for the guy because he should not have got pulled, if you ask me. But, fire Mike Houston. I don't honestly know what else to say because of how bad that was. He's supposed to be this defensive-minded guy, and that's what we're supposed to get on. Because the thing is, and we talked about it on the show, our offense goes so quick. We're one of the fastest offenses in the country, especially when we get rolling. And our defense, I think it's the third most plays in the FBS there on the field. So, and so far this year, our defense has mostly lived up to that. App State only 21 points. Liberty, the first half was amazing. Second half, obviously, but that's a good football team. Yeah. We all know that. So our defense is like, okay, and especially the first half, it was like a couple big plays here and there, but it could be worse. It could be worse. Second half, it was worse. It literally, I say it could be worse. It got so much worse. Yeah, my thing is, how does Mike Houston get out-coached by that slob that is Ben Hoagie? Like, Ben Hoagie makes I saw 1/4 the salary Mike Houston does. And he out-coached the crap out of him. Out-coached, fire Mike Houston. That was so freaking bad. Yeah, and off that, do you fire Blake Harrell, too? He's the defensive coordinator, and he's, for the most part, had his defense ready. Omega Blake had, there was one of the catches he had, it was just a corner blitz, and just had 5 guys going, and he just found them. How do you be like that by a true freshman quarterback? A true freshman quarterback beat us on Saturday. Now, obviously, the running game was their focal point, but still, he still made some great throws for that team. Like, the one he had on the sideline, I was like, oh, there's no way that's a catch by the Marks guy or whatever. Yeah. How was that? How? That was an amazing throw. None of our quarterbacks could ever make that throw. Kane Hauser was like garbage. That makes me even, because I'm just like, we were talking about in the past, you put Hauser in. You don't put Hauser in. Don't put Hauser in. Not right now, at least. Keep Jake out there. If Jake's not the quarterback for Army, I'll be a little surprised. Because Hauser, you got your moment. It's like, okay, I'll step up, lead us on a comeback. You throw a pick to a D lineman. You throw a pick to a D lineman. Oh, it's so bad. Fire Mike Houston, fire Mike Houston, fire Mike Houston. Like, that's, oh, Nick, just go, Nick.
Embarrassment is an understatement for this game. When we are talking after the game of our athletic program is now borderline worse than UNC Charlotte.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me embarrassed to be a student here. It makes me embarrassed to be a fan. Now, granted, I'll be a fan till the day I die. I chose East Carolina. I love this school. I got a lot of pride for this school. What I witnessed on Saturday, I mentioned this in a group chat to these guys. I don't leave football games early, and I typically lose my voice at every football game. Neither one of those happened on Saturday. Or both of those, sorry. I left that football game early, and I did not lose my voice at that football game. I didn't say a word. And when I was planning on going into Charlotte and being a menace, and I didn't say a word, that's a problem. I couldn't say a word. There was nothing for me to say. We didn't have a single time on the field where I had hope for that team. There was maybe a minute where I had hope, and that was it. Once again, when you are out-coached by Biff Poggi, that is bad. Excuse me. That is really bad. Biff Poggi is not a good head coach. Charlotte is not a good football team. Now, Purdy, he played a fantastic day. I'm going to give him credit where credit's due. He played phenomenal. And he will be a problem to deal with. He's a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. But we should not lose to them, especially that badly in the run game. We have been a defensively run-dominant team. We have been able to stop this all year long. This has not been a problem. And when their head coach comes up with a game plan of we're going to run the ball down their throats, that should not work against us. No. That has been our strong point all year long. And that is a horrible game plan. And it worked to perfection. That's terrible. This is entirely on Mike Houston. Cannon, you mentioned it perfectly. When we threw Caden Hauser in there, me and Trayvon, we were talking about this earlier. It seemed like Mike Houston was trying to deflect blame off himself onto Jake Garcia. And when Caden Hauser came out there and he had the same problems Jake Garcia had, that tells you all I need to know. It's not Jake Garcia. It's not Caden Hauser. It's not the talent we have. And while defensively we looked really bad this game, I'm not blaming the defense. This is on Mike Houston. 0-7 against FBS in-state opponents. And 2 of them are to UNC Charlotte. That's horrendous. That is absolutely horrendous. This should not be acceptable. This was an ECU franchise who has historically been one of the better football franchises in North Carolina. We're wanting to do better. We're wanting to move up from the American, and Mike Houston is setting us back. Charlotte just got out of Conference USA 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Just got out of it. And they've beaten us twice. Last year, that was the worst football game I've ever watched. And last year, we honestly could have fired Mike Houston after last year. And I don't think many people would have been that upset about it just because of how bad last year was.
It was one of the lowest.
This year, we brought in a lot of talent who all 3 of us have been like, this is a really good class. If we don't have at least 8 wins, Mike Houston's got to go. And while I still stand by that, at this point, if we make a bowl game, I'll be shocked.
Yep.
I will be shocked.
Yep.
This is infuriating. This is horrendous. And that's why, if you notice, they have indifferent faces. I threw a sad face on mine because I'm not indifferent about this. My opinion's there. Fire Mike Houston. And I will. This counter is going to go insane today. And you know why it's going to be even worse? Is because we don't even have next week to look forward to because we got a bye week. So we're not even going to. We don't have another game to talk about. All we have is this UNC Charlotte game. That's it. And I don't want to talk about this one. Now, granted, we're going to. We're going to give you an episode every single week. So we're going to talk about this one. And I've got some strong opinions on this. But, man, is this infuriating. And that's my rant for right now. There might be another one later in the episode. We'll continue talking about that later. But let's go back and let's get more. That was the initial thoughts on it. Defensively, thank you, Ken. I need that one. Defensively, we struggled really badly. I know we did not have Zakai Barker out there, which hurt us tremendously. Right. Siobhan Rebel, still don't have him. That still sucks. What was the biggest problem defensively that we think we had?
I mean, I think you said it. The linebacker core. Also, I will say, my indifferent face is more of that's more of just a mad face, I guess, because you can't really make a mad face on a bag.
Fair enough.
Because I'm not sad because.
By the way, I was at the game on Saturday. I needed this. Yeah. I needed this right here. This needed to be. I needed one of these. I wanted to walk out. I was so embarrassed walking out of that stadium. That was bad. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. It was definitely the linebackers because Mike Edwards kind of looked bad. And that's supposed to be our. I mean, Barker's great. He's had a great start to the season, but going into the season, you rely on Mike Edwards. He's one of those guys you rely on, veteran leader, been on this team for a few years now, been in this Mike Houston defense, this Blake Carroll defense. He did not look good. There was a couple plays that they literally showed he went into the wrong gap and boom, Norton or Wilson or the other, Hellman or whatever. I forget how they say their names. Just boom, pop through. And our guys that are secondary are not really run stoppers. They're not. They're not guys who are going to come up and smash in the mouth. They got some hitting to them, but they're not really necessarily like, I'm going to come down and hit you right in the mouth in the box. That's not how our secondary guys are. That's how our linebackers are supposed to be and what our defensive linemen are supposed to kind of stop because, it's obviously, unless you break through a D lineman, it's not making the first. They're not making the tackle most of the time. It's the linebackers, and that's where I get most mad about the linebackers because those are the guys who are supposed to pop through the hole, read, boom, attack, and they didn't do that on Saturday. They simply didn't. The running, it was really bad because I think everyone knows, and we've talked about it, our pass defense, we know is going to struggle now without Ravel. It's going to struggle at times. And it did at times on Saturday. They had a couple good throws. But the run defense is what we're supposed to, like you said, our run defense is supposed to be what we're relying on. Like, let's get to 3rd and 15 and make them try to throw the ball. Now, they're going to convert some of those because our secondary is not the best. And that's when our defensive line looks amazing because they get to the quarterback and they get to him. But the linebackers are definitely what disappointed me the most on defense. Also, another area, it's on defense, but the O-line, they disappointed me, and they kind of disappointed. And I think everyone knew going into the season, our offense-wise, our O-line was probably going to be our weakest spot.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I think people knew that, and but going so quick at times, that helps O-line a lot, especially if they're well-conditioned, and it can take your pressure off your O-line. It's supposed to do that hurry-up offense, no huddle. If they're well-conditioned, those guys, they can maul you. If they're well-conditioned, they may not be stronger than you, but they may not be more athletic than you, but if they're well-conditioned enough, O-line, that's a focal point. They've disappointed me on Saturday. They just looked meh. They looked just simply meh. I'll pass you.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you, Cannon. I'll take it a step further. The linebackers were disappointing as well, but tell me, guys, did we have a sack last game?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did.
And honestly, tackle for losses, we would not have had 2.
Exactly. That's the D-line.
Actually, wait, I think we did have a sack.
We did have a sack.
I think we did.
I appreciate whoever got the sack.
Even if we did.
Even if we did, we maybe got 2.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Because it was already too late. They didn't have to pass the ball anymore. They just ran it. They had a back that had over, I believe, 115 plus yards, and then their backup or their change of pace back had almost 100 as well. I don't know. I left around when it was like 55 to 22 at that point.
You left later than I did.
Exactly. So I don't know if he even broke 100, but first off, that can't happen. It doesn't matter how it happens. We're supposed to be a good defense that can, stop the run. We've done relatively well. You let 2 backs almost go for over 100 yards. They both combined for 6 touchdowns. We gave up multiple 20-plus yard runs that went for touch. I believe we gave 2 of those up. Felton had, I think it was Felton that had 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. That can't happen. You can't win games by not winning the fight in the trenches. And it's getting to a point where I don't know how good our D-line is anymore because we've lost the line of scrimmage battle 2 games in a row, and we've struggled tremendously because of that. And I also want to say for the secondary, I don't think they're ready or that they're not being prepped to be next man up. Rebel was a big loss. You can't replace that. That's fine. Right. But you have to understand, in closer games, you have to have guys that step up and play well on defense. I saw so many penalties that we were kicking ourselves down, even like defensive holding or pass interference that would happen, and guys are not keeping their discipline. There's a lot of hand checking with the Charlotte guys. Why are your emotions are running way too high? I understand no one wants to lose. That's a game that people expect you to win. But to stay in games, you have to stay disciplined. We're struggling with that. That has to be something that is taught. Like, that's on the coaches. Yeah. You guys have to have our guys ready to go. They have to be able to mentally prepare that they know that they're going into a game that not only people have high expectations of them, but you have to execute. And we're not doing that. I don't know if this is on what assistant coaching, head coaching, defensive coordinator. There's a lack of chemistry. There's lots of accountability, and it's killing us, bro, on defense.
I was just gonna say, of our top 7 tackle guys who are letter team or tackles, 5 were in the secondary.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
You can't have that. And then also, we look down. Mike Edwards only had 3 tackles, and I wanted to fact check the tackles for losses. We had 5 tackles for losses and 2 sacks. That's still not good. That's not good. And the fact that they ran the ball on us, I believe it was 52 times. I believe something like 52 times. Our leading tackler had 9, and our second had 6. That's
horrendous.
That's so bad.
That's
so bad.
For those that don't know, that means that they're breaking tackles, essentially.
Yeah.
They're either breaking tackles or they're getting out of balance.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what I mean?
And I tell you what, one thing that you mentioned right there that I really want to make this point on, another reason why I think we absolutely have to fire Mike Houston. Absolutely. There's no way around it. Another reason why is I don't know if you guys saw the same clip or not. I believe Pirate Radio was the one who posted it. I'm not entirely sure. But it was at UNC Charlotte press conference right after the game.
Right.
I don't remember which 2 players it was, but it was 2 players for them.
I think I know what you're talking about.
And they were like, what made you have so much success late in the game? And they're like, they gave up.
Yep.
They gave up. Exactly. And you saw them give up in their eyes.
It was the 2 top running backs.
And you saw them give up, and that's when it got fun. Yep. It's word for word pretty much exactly what they said. Why are we giving up? Why are we giving? I understand the score's bad. You don't give up. That's horrendous.
Yeah, fire Mike Houston.
Fire Mike Houston.
That's what it's for.
And not only that, I also saw. Now, granted, this was not coming from a reliable source, but I saw one of the UNC Charlotte Twitter accounts saying that some players were joining in on the UNC Charlotte chants. Why is that happening on our sidelines? Why? Please explain that to me. That's entirely on Mike Houston. 100%. Fire Mike Houston. I'm sorry. I'm getting heated. I understand I am. I apologize. But this is horrendous. This is unexcusable. There is no reason for this. And especially, like, I know we made the joke a few times about last week when we were recording about how Charlotte came into this, like, this is an in-state rivalry for them, and that ignited the passion of those players. Our players had 0 bit of passion on Saturday. Mm-hmm. As much as I don't think it's a rivalry between us and Charlotte, I wish the players thought it was.
Yeah.
Because we need some more passion on that dang football
field. It's different when the fans say it. It's different. It's way different.
The fans can say whatever the heck they want. The players, I want the players thinking this is a rivalry. Because of the fact that there is no excuse for losing 2 years in a row to Biff Poggi and the Charlotte 49ers.
The slob that is Biff Poggi.
There's no excuse for it. This was the final straw for me. And that was it for me. I haven't been defending Mike Houston, but I've been
Ken's been on it.
You've been very vocal about it. I've been indifferent on it for earlier this season. The line has been crossed. This was embarrassing. This is unacceptable, and changes need to be made, and not to Jake Garcia. What we saw on Saturday was awful. I'm sorry. It boils me. It boils me watching that. It really does.
Yeah, no, the thing is, too, I know you had some style. The thing is, too, is the fact that, like, this season, for the most part, we've had a lead going into halftime. I think UTSA we were down.
Yeah, UTSA.
But the difference is we're home, so we still have it's like, you're at a stadium that what would you guys say was the percentage ECU Charlotte?
It was strong.
I'd say 60-40.
Yeah, it was a strong
Charlotte.
Okay, well, yeah. So 60-40 Charlotte. That's still, I think they said 17,000 people in the stadium. So I want to, that's 7,000? I'm not good at that. But it's like, that's about 7,000 ECU people. It's something like that, somewhere in there. That's about 7,000. That's still enough in a small stadium to get you fired up.
Yeah.
And the fact that you go in the second half and look like that, because it was the main thing. The first half, we didn't look great, obviously, but it was a dogfight. It was still a game after first half. Right. Second half, it's like you said, we gave up. We gave up, and that's not like it's like these guys go into Charlotte. They're like down at halftime, and at Charlotte, it's like you come back out and you look like that. I would, if I'm playing for the ECU football team, you go in to just a few criteria here. You lost to them last year, especially the guys from the team last year. You lost to them last year.
Mm-hmm.
You go in, which I hope Houston was saying, I hope he was, that this is a rivalry game. We don't believe it is, but I hope he was saying it.
Houston's got to say that.
He better be saying it. He better be, and then that's an American team. That's your conference.
It's a conference game.
This is a school that you're going to hear a lot of smack if you don't beat them.
Yes.
You're going to hear a lot of smack. From ECU kids, too.
Yeah.
It don't matter. You're going to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
And the fact you come out looking like that, and you have a lot of support behind you in an opposing stadium that's 4 hours away, you know? You're about 4 hours away. And you look like that. And that's what you say. Like, I've been, this episode, I guess, a little bit more mild compared to you. But this is all on Mike Houston on that part.
Yeah.
Fire Mike Houston, because this is all on that. The fact that your team looks like that, in all those criteria that I said, if I am an ECU football player, this game, no matter what, this is the second, maybe third game that I'm like, I want to rip a player's head off. You got App, obviously, and that's a whole, and you lost to him out there. That's number one, no matter what. But Charlotte, that's still a conference, it's still an in-state, and you look like that. I keep going in, you look like that on the football field. I feel like I could have played better out there, and I'm about 30 pounds past what I played at. Like, that was bad. And I like, that was, fire Mike Houston, fire Blake Harrell, John Gilbert, get the crap out of Greenville. Get out of Greenville. You need to go to a D3 school and be an athletic director, because you're terrible. The fact you give Mike Houston $1 million to coach this dang football team and look like that when you have Bib Poggy get paid $250,000 up in Charlotte, looking like, that's so bad. Get John Gilbert out. Get everyone out. I would maybe keep John David Baker. That's about the only person I would think about keeping right now. OL coach, I don't know who the crap your name is. You need to get out. All our defensive coaches. Blake Harrell, I don't mind, because I think Houston probably has a lot of say in that area. Maybe the coordinators. That's the only two people I'd keep right now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm just gonna break it down from like a perspective of how like we've gone down. Remember, we're a little bit over a decade, if not maybe closer removed to being a UNC team in their prime. You know, they were a competent UNC team back then, and it was when our teams had better players like, you know, Zay Jones, you know, NFL talent, like, you know, caliber talent. And we've gotten to a point now where we're losing to, not only are we losing to Charlotte, this is one of the worst losses we've had in the last 2 years. And this is a team that only won 2 years, only 2 wins last year. So it gets to a point where it's just like, they didn't say from the jump, and you were in the stadium. You heard, I believe it was the Charlotte tennis head coach who said it's rivalry week. And my first reaction to that when I was in the press box was, they think it's a rivalry, and that's on me. Because one thing I thought was like, that's my mindset, and I'm pretty sure the players had the exact same mindset. They didn't see Charlotte as a threat. They figured, they got lucky because we didn't really have much offensive power last year. It would play one of the worst offensively coached games we had. That was the game between two bad offenses, one of the worst in the nation. Mm-hmm. And they literally took that for granted and was like, okay, well, we already beat a couple teams, we can get past them. Yeah, you can't overlook teams in the American. That's number one. Yeah. And we were trying to get to a point to where we thought we could potentially get to the end of the season and maybe play a team such as, you know, a Memphis or so, because now SMU isn't in the American anymore. They left. Memphis is still in the American, but we don't play them this year. You know what I'm saying? There was a stretch. Get past Tulane, perhaps. Get past Tulsa, who isn't as good as they used to be anymore. At that point, how good are we truly in the American? Because it gets to a point where you can't beat Charlotte, who, no disrespect to them, again, coming into this game only had 2 wins, and beat Rice, who arguably isn't as good as they were last year either. Like, they lost a lot of talent. And besides Kurt Warner's, you know, son, but besides that, it's like, it hurts a little bit, because it's like we've fallen so much as a program that I think we arguably might be the worst American team. I can't think of one besides maybe the UTSA, but they beat us last year. You know, they lost their quarterback this year. It went from feeling good last year to feeling good this year to it's bottomed out now. I'm feeling the exact same. We have 1 extra win at this point than we did last year.
Yeah. I think with that, you were saying, off our schedule right now, the only game that I'm like, we should win right now is Temple. That's like the only game right now that I'm like, we should win. It's a home game, homecoming, all that, against a team that's not very good. That's the only game right now that I feel confident about. Because it's like, I want to say this earlier, and one more after that, is you we talked about Army and Navy, like how they're going to be tough teams to play, and you were like, okay, it's going to be really tough to stop that run. But then you let up that many rushing yards to Charlotte. You're going into Army. You're not going to be able to stop the run. They're not. They're just simply not going to.
You know what their game plan is going to be? Run.
Yeah.
Run this side, run that side.
And then maybe run right up the middle and go bust out 30 yards. It's going to happen. And then the other thing I was going to say on that as well, and now I'm forgetting, and I hate that I'm forgetting because my head right now is just racking with so many things.
There's a lot to talk about.
Because of how annoying that loss was. Gosh. Nick, I'm past you.
Okay, that's fine. One thing I want to absolutely point out, because I almost forgot about this, and this is a very important thing we need to talk about right now. Second half, we came out, we scored a touchdown the first drive, got a 3-and-out. That next drive, we get down the field a little bit, it's 4th and 2. We decide we're going to go for it. You know, I'm not mad at that. Let's go for it. We need to go for it at that point. Why on earth, on 4th and 2, are we taking a deep shot to the end zone?
Yes, that was inexplicably.
Why?
That was bad.
Fire Mike Houston. Sorry. I have to address that, though, because that nothing made me more upset. And the worst part about it is, it wasn't open. It was not open at all. And even if it was open, Kate Hauser missed him. The ball wasn't even remotely catchable. Even if it was there, you didn't give him a chance, really. It didn't hit him in the hands. It didn't hit the defender's hands. It wasn't close. It landed, I think, 5 yards in front of both of them. It was a horrible pass. But at the same time, why is that the play call on 4th and 2? I'm not even that upset at Kate Hauser for the throw, even though it was bad. I'm mad at the play call. 4th and 2. It should be run it up the middle, right down your throat, or we should have a short pass to pick up 2 yards.
Jet sweep.
Or a jet sweep. Something simple.
Kelly Winston, right?
That could
bootleg.
And I'm not even mad. We had one guy going deep, and I'm not mad we threw it there if the guy was open. If the guy was open, absolutely throw it deep. I'm not upset about that.
Right.
We had 2 receivers on the same side of the field going deep, and it looked like that was the read. That was the read the whole time. Why is that the play call on 4th and 2? I don't know if that's JDB. I don't know if that's Mike Houston. I don't know what it is. I'm blaming Mike Houston because I'm upset at Mike Houston right now, so fire Mike Houston. But I don't know what it is. At the same time, that should never be the play call on 4th and 2. Never. Unless it's open, and then you throw it there. But
yeah.
That needed to be addressed. I've been thinking about that since the game, and I needed to get that off my chest.
Yeah.
But
one highlight I will say from the game while we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Our boy. Winston Wright with the return touchdown.
Hey,
gotta love that. Gotta love that.
I think
maybe we can keep the special teams guy.
While I'm here. The only second half highlight we had, honestly.
That's it. That's really it. And Winston Wright Jr., I hope you stay. I understand if you don't, because
I think he can.
Is he a senior?
I think he's
yeah.
Oh,
pretty sure.
Never mind. I understand. I'm sorry then.
I remember what I was going to say when you can get back to me. I remember what I was going to say.
Oh,
continue though. Continue.
Well, Winston Wright Jr., I know you can't stay, and that's unfortunate. But at the same time, Winston Wright Jr., thank you for being the only player on the team that it looked like cared on Saturday. It looked like you were the only one who cared, and we appreciate. Me and Cannon, we talked to you. That interview's on YouTube right now. We had a conversation with you. Thank you for being the only player who cared. We genuinely appreciate it, because that's what it looked like. It looked like you're the only one who cared. And so I genuinely appreciate that. I think that's all I was really going to say.
Also, because we say that, I think does care, and they even really, I think Jake really does care.
I do too.
And the thing is, like I said, I don't know why he got benched, but still. My thing I was going to say, we talk all about these transfers, and nowadays that's what you need to have is transfer guys come in, and they come in from high-level programs, do all that. My thing right now is you're 3-3 after getting all these guys. And I feel like we should be getting more North Carolina guys. That's my main thing right now.
Yes.
Now, if we were 5-1 right now, I'd be like, oh, these transfers have bought into this ECU community, this ECU love. We're 3-3, and it's like, that's probably on Mike Houston too. Fire Mike Houston, it's probably on him as well, because get more of those North Carolina guys. Because, there's a couple transfers we got that came in that were North Carolina born, went to a program, and then came back. Yeah. But they're also coming from a bigger program, so they really don't have the North Carolina, I feel like anymore, because they were at, I think, Samuel Danka, I believe, or one of the outside linebackers we have, I know, was like Louisville, and came back to North Carolina. But it's like, let's get more of those North Carolina guys, because I feel like a lot of times those are the guys who care the most.
Yeah.
Is the guys who were born in North Carolina, even if they didn't grow up ECU fans. They were born in North Carolina. They buy in more to that ECU community, that ECU love, and that's on Mike Houston because yes, and nowadays in college football, you gotta be good in the transfer portal most of the time. You gotta be good. There's like a couple exceptions, like Dabo. That's like one of the couple exceptions. But nowadays in college football, the guys that are succeeding, not fully, but a lot of times it's transfer portal. You look at the top teams in college football, Bama. Maybe not talk about Bama, right?
Maybe not Bama.
But you talk about these guys, like, they were bringing guys recruiting-wise, but you got guys like Georgia. Ole Miss, I mean, dang, their team is transfers. Yeah. That is their team. But the thing is, you need to be able to coach those transfers and make them buy in.
They have to buy in the program.
Houston, what year is it now for him? Year 6?
6 or 7.
Yeah,
6 or 7?
It's been a while.
And honestly, right now it's past due. Because time's past due. Because I think, now, people aren't going to talk about it. Right now in a national landscape, Mike Houston should be a top 10 coach on the hot seat. Now, people might not talk about it because they're like, oh, Charlotte, like, they're not that bad. They already had 2 wins on the year. They just needed and that was people who don't know. Right now, and we know, Mike Houston is a top 10 coach on the national landscape on the hot seat.
Oh, well, he better be.
He should be.
The fan base wants him there. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So obviously, maybe not on the national landscape, people are like, he's up there, but we know. He's on the top 10 of coaches that need to get hired. Right now, for me, it's Billy Napier. Billy Napier's 1 and he's 2.
Yeah.
Because if I was in Florida, Billy Napier.
Fair.
But Mike Houston needs to get the heck out of Greenville while he still can. Fire Mike Houston and fire John Gilbert while you're at it, because he sucks too, and that's for every sport. So, or whoever, I don't know.
I got y'all.
My
apologies.
No,
just to give it, I think 2 points I need to make here that are really important. The first being, people are probably watching this wondering, like, okay, we're 3-3, 500, a little bit more improved than we were last year. Why are we seeming like we're more down than we were like years ago? It's getting to a point that we know that these wins are kind of like, they're not great. You know what I mean? Like, they're just, all right, we beat a couple of guys. FCS team, we beat UTSA in a down year, and then we also took care of business against Old Dominion, who isn't as good as they were last year as well. And these are tough losses against quality opponents that we're losing at. So these are wins that you're supposed to be building up with weaker opponents that we're not getting, right? Like, App is one thing that was, beat your in-state opponent. That's what you want to do. Other one with, I don't know why I blanked on their name for a second right there. Liberty is another one that was a tougher opponent, the group of 5. It gets to a point where we're losing confidence because the team's not showing effort, like you guys were talking about a little bit earlier. And the second thing is, I know we kind of glossed over it a little bit earlier as well. It was a 100% move that we saw last year, where things aren't going well with the team, defense is giving up points, Mike Houston benches the starting quarterback and puts in the backup. Hauser wasn't ready to go in. He wasn't. No. You could see the way that he played the moment he started, and he was not accurate on most of his passes. He wasn't ready. He had no poise in the pocket.
He probably had not even had first team reps in practice because he didn't think he was going to need to go in.
Exactly.
Also, it's like I said, I'll let you get back, is Jake shouldn't have got benched in the first place.
Correct.
So, and at that time of game, it's like, oh wait, I'm going to the football game right now. What did he do wrong? Like, he threw a kind of bad pick, but 6 for 8. It was 6 for 8. One of those incompletions, the interception. What did he do wrong?
Exactly. And it was over for 111. The offense was moving when he was there.
Yeah,
so when he just gets
for
much as what it did.
There was a few passes that
could have been better.
He definitely could have had more touchdowns. There was one pass specifically. I don't remember who it was to.
The Anthony Smith pass.
Was it Anthony's?
No, the one that Smith threw to so well.
Yeah.
So
should have caught that though. But all things considered, he made up for a little bit that water down the line. But that's a touchdown we could have had.
Yeah.
There was quite a few plays we should have had touchdowns where we didn't, and it once again comes down to Mike Houston. Right. Fire Mike Houston. Sorry, I hate to cut you off.
You're good.
I hate to cut you off.
You're good. It's just because I feel the same way that you guys do for real. But Jake Garcia is just it breaks confidence of quarterbacks when you pull them, especially when they're not having the worst. Yes, he leads the nation in turnovers, but we already know like he's the best option we have. Arguably, I can see as of right now until Hauser gets a little bit more reps. Or if that's the plan we want to go together, this switching thing that they did last year between the other guys there, like Mason Garcia and Alex Flynn last year, where it was the constant back and forth with playing through guys. The reason why the passing offense got stagnant quickly is because there's no chemistry built between the wide receivers. That's why we have one of the worst passing offenses in the league. That's how I think.
Yeah.
Now, fellas, I understand. Look, emotions are very hot right now, if you cannot tell, between all 3 of us. All 3 of us have definitely expressed our emotions, and I do want to kind of get back on track a little bit here. We've been kind of getting things off our chest a little bit because this, at least for me, this is the first time I've really talked about the game since Saturday.
Me too.
And even on Saturday, I didn't do much talking about the game because I was just so upset that I couldn't do it. I could not formulate a good thought about the game. But I do kind of want to get back on track a little bit here, talk about ECU football. Let's just get down to kind of the nitty-gritty here. We did bench Jake Garcia in the second quarter for Caden Hauser. For the future of ECU, for the rest of the season, I know we kind of talked about, do you think we go Jake Garcia or are we going to go Caden Hauser?
Jake. That looks so bad out of Caden. Because my thing is, and I was on the side of, honestly, before season started, I was kind of like, Caden, that could be the better option after Saturday. That was really bad. And I obviously, he wasn't ready. But I'll give you slack for that first couple of drives. The whole game, he looked bad. I stopped watching after I don't know what. But
I left the stadium.
I know you did. But that looked bad from what I saw. Like he was under 50% completion on his passes. I know that. I think it was like 11 for 24, and he didn't even throw for 100 yards. It looked bad. I know what you're saying for the future wise. But right now, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to Cole Hodge. I'm looking forward to Cole Hodge right now because, and maybe Jeter as well, right?
Yeah.
Because that looked bad.
I mean, we were asking for Jeter last year.
Yes.
We were asking for him because I remember last year we had an episode where we sat here and was like, it doesn't hurt. We got 2 wins on the year. It doesn't hurt.
He can run just like the other two.
Throw him in there.
For God's sake.
What's the worst we got in Jeter?
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
I may be different than Trayvon on this, but I'd keep Jake in for right now. Now, if it continues to be like this, because right now, I'm not going to lie to you guys, we'll talk about it more next week. I'm probably going to predict us lose against Army.
Yep.
I'm probably going to predict us to lose against Army.
Yeah.
So, that one, so we're going to be 3-4. I'd probably still keep Jake in, but then if it's like we're not even in contention for a bowl game, like last 2 games of the year, put Caden in. Because you got to see what you can get. Now, Jake says the 1 year is 2 years right now, this year, next year. But it might be Caden. I don't know. But
I mean, I want to agree with you as well. I do think it should be Jake Garcia, but is that what Houston's going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that what
What's Mike Houston going to do? Fire Mike Houston.
Because this is something that we saw last year. He has the track record of constantly, whenever one quarterback struggles and the defense gets blown up, the next game he sticks with the same guy. He did with Flynn earlier in the game. And I don't think, I think further down the line, I don't even think Mason Garcia got any more starts past, I believe, 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, they say it wasn't until the Charlotte game, and then guess what happened in the Charlotte game? It was the worst football game I've ever watched. And we didn't, I think the Charlotte game last year, we had 30 yards of offense going in the fourth quarter, and then we finally decided to pull the guy.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know what was the hit before that. I don't know. Sorry, I got on a tangent.
I believe it. You're right. Because I wouldn't be surprised if we do get Hauser because in Mike Houston's mind, it's going to change the way. Like, my thing is, I'm assuming he's thinking along the lines of Garcia turns the ball over too much, even though he might make plays.
that had already happened.
Exactly. And he makes plays with those, and even with the turnovers, he still makes plays. And that's something that we didn't get to see in the sample size of Hauser. He didn't really move the ball too much, and it is his first start. I mean, his first come in for relief. And it's just hard to expect him to just be thrown in the fire. We've seen this story before. I don't want him to be thrown in the fire because there's a good chance that it's not easy for ECU to grab, quarterbacks, what I'm saying, or getting recruits, compared to other bigger schools, and especially in North Carolina, because that's the point that we made about in terms of winning in-state recruits. You might see Hauser here. He might be the guy that you're trying to groom to be better, because I believe he's a sophomore, if I'm not mistaken.
He has 3 years left.
He's got 3 years of eligibility left. So it's like, you're going to ruin this young kid. It's not even, as a coach, you're supposed to also coach your players. You're supposed to bring them, and parents trust you with other quarterbacks, as to bring them up as men. You're breaking your quarterback's confidences when you keep playing like whack-a-mole with them. I'm going with Garcia on this, and I'm going with Houston.
Fire Mike Houston, yeah.
Right.
Once again, it seems like Mike Houston is trying to deflect the blame off himself.
Right.
And that's what it seemed like in the stadium. That's what it seemed like on Saturday. It's what it seemed like last year. It seemed like the entire time he was trying to deflect blame. Because last year when we had the quarterback problem, we kept switching between the 2 quarterbacks, and we had 2 bad quarterbacks. No offense to Mason Garcia or Alex Flynn. I think Alex Flynn was the better of the 2 options. But at the end of the day, I don't think we had 2 good quarterbacks there. I think we had 2 bad quarterbacks that I don't think either one of them should have been the starting quarterback at our franchise. I don't think either one of them should. And I think it seemed like he's trying to deflect blame. Jake Garcia threw the 1 pick, but like you said, he had a good day before that. Before the 1 pick, he had a good day. He threw that 1 pick, and Jake Garcia, and then all of a sudden, We got Caden Hauser in there. It's like, now wait a minute. Because I don't know about you guys. You mentioned the stat last week. We've won every game Jake Garcia's thrown 2 or more interceptions. There was interception number 1. Charlotte was cheering. They didn't know I was halfway clapping too whenever he threw the interception. I was like, okay, there's 1.
It gets him settled in.
Gets him settled in. And he locks in for that next drive. He didn't get a next drive. He didn't get that next drive to prove, okay, wait, no, I'm good. He didn't get that next drive. And so I do feel bad for Jake Garcia a little bit. While, the interceptions are a problem, they've been a problem all year long, and we pretended like it's been fine. What changed this week? It's because everybody's knew Mike Houston was on the hot seat, and Mike Houston was trying to deflect blame. That's what it seemed like to me anyway. So, once again, fire Mike Houston. This is terrible. This is unacceptable. The amount of times I've said unacceptable and embarrassing in this episode is pretty high up there.
This is arguably the worst offense we've ever had.
And it's inexcusable. Last question before we need to end the podcast. We've been talking for a while. This has been a long podcast, and honestly, this might
not even be able to preview a game, and it's still been a long podcast.
Yeah, we're not even previewing another game. We've just been talking about this one, and this probably is going to be the highest view count we're going to get because I know the Charlotte fans are probably going to tune into this one because they love to see us They love to see ECU fans complaining about their franchise. So they're probably tuning into this. So welcome, Charlotte fans. Please hit the subscribe button. We do this every week. Welcome to the podcast. But that being said, Trayvon, we talked about this earlier. We mentioned a little bit. Do you think it's time to kind of let Montgomery take over the backfield and bench Raji? Not bench him, but kind of let Raji Harris get less snaps and let Montgomery take over the backfield?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's getting to that point. It's becoming evident these last couple of weeks that, I think it's less on Raji because we've seen what he's been able to do. We had a better line for rushing last year, and he put up stats, but this year it's not the same. They don't have the ability to hold the line.
So it's a different offense too.
Yeah, that's
too.
But it's also as well an offensive line isn't good enough to hold blocks for longer.
Yeah.
He needs faster backs to do that, and Bond when he's healthy, Montgomery obviously he's shown it, and then Gunn whenever he gets a chance. We haven't even seen Marlon Gunn honestly this year. It's about time. I think we should go with Montgomery or Gunn, or work them in, and then put Raji in for short yardage gains, goal line. I think it would work better.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that because I don't want to bench Raji.
I don't want to bench him.
I just think I don't think every game he should be leading the carries by as much as he is.
Right.
Because even on Saturday, he had, I think it was like 12, 13 carries. Montgomery had 3, and he still outgained him. Exactly. It was the 1 touchdown, obviously, but still, I want to see more of a Raja 10 carries. Let's say 10 carries. Montgomery 8, Gunn 6, 7. Bond when he's healthy, get him obviously in there. Get the rotation. Charlotte had 3 guys with over 10 carries.
Right.
Yeah.
It works for them. Why can't it work for us?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also don't want to bench Raji completely. Yeah. I realized when I said I corrected myself. I don't want to bench him. I want to maybe less snaps. Is kind of what I'm thinking.
I feel like he's getting every situation when Raji is not that type of back.
Not at all.
He's not a back that on let's say 2nd and 8 that you're like, go get that first down.
Yeah.
And he's not that back that's like 3rd and 5, go catch this pass.
Yeah.
He's not that type of back.
No,
he's
not at all. I think I agree with Trayvon on this one a lot, actually. I think I would like to see him more on goal line situations, absolutely. I would love to see Raji there. I think that's where he's the best, is goal line situations, and we need a few yards. Or 3rd and 2. Hey, let's pick up 2 yards, let's give it to Raji. I think that's where he's the best.
Yeah.
I think that's the best spot for him. I would like to see a lot more Marlon Gunn. I like Marlon Gunn a lot. I liked what he did last year. Yeah. We hadn't seen him. Now, Montgomery has came to play recently, and I've got to give him credit where it's due. I believe he's a transfer from Penn State, if I'm not wrong. Yes. He's played fantastically, and I do want to see him kind of take more snaps in the backfield. Maybe become that back for us, because I think he probably can catch some passes out of the backfield and take it the distance. Maybe work in some screens with Montgomery. I would love to see him become that back. I almost hate that Raji is that back. Not that I hate that he is that back, because I do like Raji. I just think Montgomery has the potential. He's got the more explosiveness. He has the playmaking ability to be a really solid back for us. And then same with Marlon Gunn. I really want to see him get some more snaps too, just because I think he's got the talent, he's got the speed. I think both of them could be really, really crucial pieces. And then when Javius Bond comes back, obviously I would like to see him more too, because whenever he's fully healthy again, I know he's been battling injuries, so whenever he's fully healthy, get him some more snaps in the backfield. I think that would be great too.
And just a quick point on that. Well, I started to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
Well, I think if that's the goal, if the game plan is to kind of like work Hauser into the situations, using Bond as a receiving back out the backfield or giving touches to Montgomery, that's huge.
And that's going to get him more situated.
Exactly.
And I think they were trying to throw Hauser too much into the Garcia thing.
Right.
Let him start working on those short passes, the screens, and the Winston Wrights. Just pop it around, and then look for Sowell deep.
Yeah. Last thing I want to mention before we kind of end this thing a little bit. I don't want to make this seem like this is entirely on us that we lost this game. Charlotte played a heck of a game. They did fantastic. I'm not even going to try and discredit what they did. Purdy played a phenomenal game. He threw some passes that were insane. He really did. Omega Blake and other receivers for Charlotte made some insane catches, and I'm not going to pretend they didn't. There was contested catches. Like, it's not like we weren't there. They were there, and they still made the plays. Charlotte's atmosphere, they called it a rival game. They had the crowd there. It was sold out. Got to give them credit for that, too. I'm not going to sit here and say this is entirely on ECU. Charlotte came to play on Saturday. We did not. They played phenomenal. And genuinely, if this Purdy guy sticks with Charlotte, he's going to be a problem to mess with in a few years. He played a fantastic game, and I don't want to discredit what they did. I just think we needed to see a lot more out of them. Because if they played that game and we lost, but it was a closer game, I would be a lot less upset. Because I'd be like, okay, they made some phenomenal plays. I'm not even going to discredit that. But when they come to play and we don't have any heart on the field whatsoever, that's where I'm upset, and that's why I think we need to fire Mike Houston. That's kind of my closing remarks, fellas.
I have one that you want to go first.
Go ahead. No,
you got it. No, you got it. So I have one really big thing to say.
Sorry about that, y'all. You said it really best, Nick. I think that it gets to a point where, like, this is one of, like I said it earlier and I say it again. This is one of the worst losses that we've had in a while. Yeah. Like it's and that's why we're like this. It's because we care. The fans care. We care about this thing. You know what I'm saying? Now, we have other programs that we could be spending our time, looking into. Like, our volleyball team is pretty decent. Our soccer team is pretty good. The volleyball team has 10 wins, and they're close to the AAC, close to the top of the standings right now. Mm-hmm. But every week we come back here and talk about football because it's one of the things that Greenville loves. Greenville is a football town, and baseball when it's in spring. You know what I mean? And it's disheartening to see a program that is a couple decades away from being, like, ranked. Back at peak ECU, it was one of the better fan bases all in the Conference USA when they were there. It can be the best in the American if they were good, but it just gets to a point where I feel like we're under the wrong leadership. It's time to. It's been 6 years. It's been 7 years, and we only have, I believe, one bowl game win that we even got under to show from that. Yeah. That's unacceptable for a team that should be much better than it actually is, and it's time to move on.
Yeah. I have one thing to say. Fire Mike Houston.
Fair enough. Honestly, that's how we're going to end the episode right there. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode of TECspertZ. We'll be back next week where we will be previewing Army, and hopefully it'll be a much more positive episode. Probably not, though, to be honest with you.
It won't be. Unless we see a change happen, it won't be.
Unless we see a change happen this week, and which we will be more than happy to report on if it does. And trust me, you'll hear it here if that does happen. We will gladly talk about it. Until next time, though, thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode of TECspertZ. We'll be back again next week. Until then, go Pirates.